there, everyone, and welcome back. It is the first video I'm recording for you all here on YouTube for 2021. I did have a little bit of a restorative break over the end of year, start of the year period. I hope you're all doing well. I've got a lot planned for you for this year. And because it's our first video touching base together for the new year, if there are any video topics that you'd like me to cover this year in 2021, definitely pop a comment below and let me know. This video today is actually coming from a recent commenter who asked about videos to do with the ruler of something. And I thought I would just take you through quite briefly, but some of the basic theory about what is the ruler of what. And I'm doing this in terms of a chart construction perspective, but if there's more you'd like on this topic, again, just let me know via the comments. I can't promise that I'll answer everybody's question, but I do look at the comments for video ideas for going forward. So, what does this ruler of thing mean? And so we most commonly as astrologers refer to this as, this is the ruler of money or the ruler of career or perhaps the ruler of the seventh house. And so first I wanted to connect the idea of planets ruling signs. That's our first piece of theory. And then the second piece of theory has to do with planets ruling houses, which they do via the zodiac signs. So I'm going to take you through some of the basic pieces of theory on this here in this short video. And then I'm also going to, if we have time, I'm going to use a brief chart example. And I'll also mention a training webinar of mine on this, where if you want more information, you can take that training webinar as well. So I'm going to put up a diagram on the screen here. So this diagram is something called the Thema Mundi, or the birth chart of the world. And what it lays out is a lot of the core theory that is embedded into astrology that is used even today. This diagram is a little over 2,000 years old, or thought to be, and it shows the original arrangement of the planets as they were associated with signs from a rulership perspective, going back to the origins of astrology. And so there is lots of astrological theory embedded in this diagram, including where aspect theory comes from. And I cover that in my training on aspect theory. So I won't repeat myself here. But from the context of what's the ruler of what, this is the diagram that shows which planets traditionally rule which zodiac signs. And you have the moon ruling Cancer, you have the sun ruling Leo. They're the two lights or luminaries. This diagram is embedded into a northern hemisphere orientation. And I'm originally from the southern hemisphere, being Australian. So I appreciate some of the questions or the unsettled qualities that you might have around this. And it's still okay to move forward and use the diagram and the theories that it points to, even with that sort of difference, if you like. So that then the reason I say that is in the northern hemisphere, Leo and Cancer are signs associated with maximum light, where we have the longest days of the year in the northern hemisphere. And we have the sun and moon connected to those. And the moon, Cancer in the Thema Mundi chart is connected to the rising part of the chart. And that has to do with the rising of a fixed star known as Sirius, which when it started to rise was associated with the flooding of the Nile. Life-giving waters in ancient Egypt. And so that's part of the embedded meaning here. And so we have the sun and moon connected to ruling the one sign that they each rule. And then the way the planets are arranged in this diagram is that we go up and around from the moon, and then we go out and around from the sun. And what you'll notice is that as we move out in that fan shape, either up and around from the moon or down and around from the sun, we hit the planets in a particular sequence. It's the same sequence of the planets on either side that has to do with the planet's proximity to Earth and also to do with their speed or their rate of motion. So the planet that's closest and moves quickest is Mercury. So he rules the next sign around. From Cancer up and around, that has Mercury ruling Gemini, and from the sun kind of going out and fanning around, the next sign around is Virgo. So Mercury rules Virgo and Gemini. The next planet out is Venus, and she rules the next two signs as we continue our journey in this order. Venus rules Taurus and Libra. Next signs around in each direction, we have Aries and Scorpio. They'll be ruled by the next planet out in the solar system, which is Mars. The next two signs, as we continue our journey around, we have we have Pisces and Sagittarius, which of course are ruled by Jupiter. That leaves two signs which are now opposite the signs of the lights. And there's one planet visible to the naked eye. Remember, this diagram vastly predates the discovery of the modern planets, which we use technology like telescopes to identify. So this is what we can see with the naked eye. And Saturn represented the end of the solar system, the darkest, most distant planet, the furthest from Earth and the furthest from the light. And so Saturn rules the two signs that are in opposition to the signs of the lights, Saturn ruling Capricorn and Aquarius. So when we say the ruler of something, the most basic premise that we're referring to here is the planet ruling the sign. And the signs connect into the birth chart to the houses and the topics. So to get to that, we first need to know which planets rule which signs. This is definitely a traditional arrangement of planetary rulership. It may not be the arrangement that you use or that you were taught if you were taught an arrangement using the modern planets as well. This is the arrangement that I use in my practice. So it's the one that I do recommend. After that, we have to look at the idea of planets ruling houses and remembering that the signs are the intermediaries. And the best way to show you this is actually to pop a chart up on the screen. And I'm going to use the chart of Gloria Steinem today. And so you can see this is a whole sign birth chart, and I've got other resources on whole sign houses if that's new for you. Gloria Steinem's chart puts the sign of Scorpio on the first house and her ascendant specifically at the 12-degree marker inside her Scorpio first house. So if we were looking at the ruler of the ascendant in this chart, it would be the planetary ruler of the sign on the ascendant from that traditional Thema Mundi diagram. And so the traditional ruling planet of Scorpio is Mars. And so we would say Mars rules the ascendant. In some approaches to astrology, they would say Mars is the chart ruler here. And there is a little debate about what the definition of a chart ruler is. So I like to be more specific and focus on the ascendant ruler so it's clear for everyone what I'm talking about. But if I was talking about the ascendant ruler, which represents it represents the person themselves. So Mars as ruler of Scorpio in Gloria's chart represents her physical body, her physical vitality or lack thereof, and also some core qualities about her personality. In traditional astrology, the ruling planet of the ascendant is a little more important than just about anything else. I'm going to be talking more about that in my upcoming course, my 4-part training starting March 1st called Your Guiding Lights, where we're going to do a deep dive into the ascendant ruling planet in a chart and into the Sect light. So if you're looking for more on that material, you can join me on that, and I'll pop the link for that below. I'll just make a note. I wasn't expecting to mention that, but it seemed appropriate, so I did. So if we were going to talk about the ruler of money for Gloria, we would talk about the ruling planet of the second house in this chart. And this is how astrology becomes really personal, because we all have a second house, but there are 12 different ways we can approach the topics of the second house depending on the sign on the cusp. So for Gloria, we've got a Jupiter ruled second house. So Jupiter is the planet of money, cash flow, and income for her. And if we wanted to interpret those topics in her chart, we would go into exploring the planet Jupiter in her chart. We would look at the condition, the quality, the potential of Jupiter in the chart. I will be doing a training course later in 2021 on some of the basic features of planetary condition. So if you want to know more about that, keep a watch for that. But if you need something now, you can certainly check out my training course on the planets, where I go more into how to interpret the meaning and the potential, the possible pitfalls, and also the passions that each planet might hold for you. But if we were talking about what is the planet of money for Gloria Steinem, it's Jupiter, because Jupiter rules the sign on the second house cusp. Relationships is a topic most people want to know about. And so we'd have a look at the 7th house. And in Gloria's case, we have Taurus on the 7th house cusp. Sorry, I might have said 2nd house again there, 7th. Sometimes I get my words mixed up when I'm in my flow. So Taurus on the 7th house cusp for relationships. So the ruling planet of Taurus, you might know or recall from the the earlier part of the video, is going to be Venus. So Venus is the ruler of relationships for Gloria. Now, most of you probably think about relationships as being ruled by Venus, but if you have Gemini or Virgo on the 7th house cusp on your descendant, Mercury is actually the ruler of relationships for you personally. Career, I tend to prioritize the midheaven. And so if, like Gloria, you have Leo on the midheaven, the sun is the planet that represents or rules career for you. And what that means is all the qualities, the technical qualities about dignity and debility and aspect and condition that speak to the sun in this chart are going to directly speak to the types of experiences, the themes and topics that Gloria will focus on in her career. The planet of friendship in this chart, the ruler of friends, would be Mercury because it rules the 11th house, which is the part of the chart tasked with managing the topic of friendship. So these are how we approach as astrologers the topics of a planet being the ruler of. The more advanced detailed version of this is understanding the qualities of the planets and what that might indicate that they rule. For instance, we often say Mercury is about communication. And in general, that means that Mercury will probably have something to do with technology and other devices or mediums of communication, pen, paper, notepad, cell phone, etc. Venus as a planet of beauty would rule art, but also jewelry and things like that. So those comments would be info for another video. But in terms of the structure and the technique of what is the ruler of something, it's important to know which planets rule which zodiac signs, and then to understand how the planets are responsible for the topics of a house via the sign on the house cusp. So hopefully that's given you a little bit of extra insight that you can use going forward. I wanted to mention a webinar where I do go into this ruler of the houses piece in a little bit more detail. And this is a webinar called Rulership of the Houses for Beginners. It's available on my website, kellysastrology.com, and you can grab it as an instant download. I think it's about a 90-minute recording with video, audio, and slides for you to have a look at. So that's there available for you. The Guiding Lights course that I just mentioned, for those of you who want to dive into the Ascendant ruling planet, why that's important, all the different things you can use to use that for in terms of interpreting in the birth chart. That's also up on the website. That's the tile that you'll be looking for: Guiding Lights, your Ascendant Ruler, and Sect Light. So that'll be a 4-part training starting March 1st. And the final thing that I wanted to share with you, no, that's it. That's all the messages for today. I wanted to share some info, let you know about that webinar, and I look forward to seeing you here again throughout the year. I also want to say thank you to all of you for your lovely comments and engagement over the last 12 months. Diving into YouTube is something that I've been a little slower to get to, but I've really enjoyed the experience, and that's in huge part thanks to all of you for being so warm and welcoming here. So if there are questions you'd like me to answer in future videos, or there are topics you'd like me to cover, definitely let me know via the comments below. I wish you a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.